Alright, we're going to, been doing some weeding today. Basically, I'm going through in all the pathways that are around the beds and pulling up the weeds, roots and all, and throwing it all, without shaking the soil out, into these beds. And that's going to serve to, because these paths are just going to be nothing but walked on, the topsoil is more valuable to me if it's in the beds where I'm going to be growing plants. So I'm just kind of going through here and selecting all the different weeds. And I traditionally don't believe in the classical notion of weeds. I believe that every plant serves a purpose, and either whether it be medicinal or for fiber or for food. So these plants that are growing so tall here this year, I'm using as compost. And these are, just native weeds and stuff like that. But I'm also going through and selecting out. Okay, see, I'm leaving the trees growing. This here's a sumac tree. This is an elm tree. Plenty of oaks coming back. And I'm also leaving medicinal wild herbs that are growing. So here's some pokeweed. Over here is blue cohosh. This is a medicinal plant. So I'm just kind of going through, opening this whole area up by hand, and piling all the weeds into there, so that way there'll be more light coming through here. It'll open things up, give things a chance to sprout up. And here's another plant that I'm keeping. This is mullein. It's a medicinal plant. But it's a lot better doing this than going through with a weed eater. Because if you go through with a weed eater, it's really hard to pick and choose. Like, I want to save these trees. Here's a hickory tree coming up. I'm trying to regrow the canopy. Here's another hickory. And like, here's some sunflower that just came up, naturalized from last year. So, more sunflower. But all this organic matter here in the form of these tall weeds are going to make great compost. So I've already scattered out some seeds, planted some potatoes, and I'm just going to continue to add this mulch to it. Alright, this is why it's so important to go through here by hand and select things out, because of all the seed balls we threw out. We've actually got some seed ball results right here. This is Datura stramonium, unfortunately growing right next to some poison ivy. But see, these mulleins are big plants. This pokeweed's good. All the onions are flowering. We'll have seeds before too long. Just thick old meaty suckers. Garlic is flowering. Pretty wild. Abstract flowers. Spiraling. I'm not sure for sure if this is wheat or barley, but it's a cereal grain, that's for sure. There's some mature heads over here. That's reseeded from last year. I haven't planted any of that this year. These are all potatoes, even though these ones seem to be damaged in some way or another. Radishes are seeding. Okay, now I'm going to go through here, and I've got a lot of persimmon trees and other various trees. Oh, here we go. Here's the, I believe it's wheat in full flower, and some lilies. Now, one must seek to understand a multifaceted approach to weeding and thinning plants. Okay, here I have pokeweed growing and mullein as well. And not only do they get really big and produce a lot of organic matter or mulch, but these two specific plants also send down a very deep taproot straight into the ground. And because this area in here is a really hard, rocky clay subsoil, the more penetrating action I can get, the better. And because I'm not coming through here with tillers or any kind of mechanical equipment, I'm going to let nature do the job of penetrating down into the rocks, breaking them up, and hopefully increasing the depth and areability of the topsoil. Wait, just look at that. There's a giant flowering brassica. It's probably a radish, but we're going to be able to get plenty of seeds off this one. It's a pretty healthy specimen. I'm just going through here, weeding out. I've got persimmon trees, nannyberry trees, hickory trees. There's a bunch of wild carrot here. I'm not sure the identity of this plant, but just kind of making little piles as I go. This mullein is a spectacular specimen. You can see it's got a really interesting pattern to its leaf stalk, like that. It's actually getting ready to flower. It should have a stalk that shoots up, a little spire of yellow flowers. This wild carrot specimen is easily 6 foot tall. Just one plant. See, here's the root. Smells and taste of wild carrot. Let's see. Okay, I guess it's like I'm probably 7'12", so this is probably at least 8 foot long. But here's the flowers. Belongs to the Umbellariferae family. And here's some very healthy specimens of wild lettuce of the Lactusa family. The leaves are shiny, sharp. The flowers are like dandelions. Alright, done weeding for the day. Cleared out from about where that orange ladder is all the way here to about where that rainbow blanket is. Got the trees opened up, got some different flowering plants opened up. We'll get back at it tomorrow and finish all the way to the flags. Okay, we are proceeding to weed now the next day into the next little section. There's a bunch of persimmon trees growing here. I left the mullein because it's beautiful and luscious. Here's a nannyberry tree, I believe. Some oaks growing up, hickories growing up. I found out this is not actually blue cohosh, so I'm up in the air about the identity of that plant right now. But see, I've already got some either squash or gourds running. Could be winter squash, could be gourds, could be melons. But you can see it's got a good fruit going and there's more flowers on the way. Got a good radish there flowering I'm gonna get seeds from. Here's a boxwood that we rescued from the dumpster. Actually, it was on the side of the road. We came through and cut all the it was a big old bushy plant. It must have weighed at least 120 pounds. And we had to go through and cut off all the main limbs so that it would concentrate its energy in the root zone. And it looks like it did just that, because now it's got new sprigs coming up, and that signifies that it's probably going to live. But one of the more interesting features, as I was weeding my way between the swale and the rock bed, I found right here growing a reishi mushroom. That one's a young one, just a little primordia. Then here's two bigger ones. I have never seen any that are this light colored along the top of the cap like that. Usually they're a really tarnished looking reddish yellow, orangish color like you see here on the base. These are young. I mean, they must be just less than a week old, but they're very big and fanned out. When the reishi doesn't get enough moisture, it doesn't do this fan shape. You can see there's another little one coming up right here. So that's exciting. I'm probably going to go out and do some reishi hunting here in a minute. So for this zone, because it's not technically in my garden beds, it's kind of out my garden beds, it's kind of got like some extra set of rules that apply to it. Like here I have poison ivy, here's a grape, here's this wild carrot. I'm going to pull up these wild carrots because they get too big. Now when you're pulling these big old plants out of the ground like this, with your bare hand, you want to get as low down on the plant as you can. Now I couldn't reach way down there because it's poison ivies, but you really want to ideally be grabbing right there on the base and just give it a good old firm tug. You pull that sucker right out of the ground. You want to get the roots when you pull these plants up. I'd say the most important thing when weeding is 1, grabbing at the base, 2, giving it an upward pull. Don't try to do a lateral pull. You'll end up breaking these plants off like this. See, like that. And then you just have to pull off the foliage, but you'll be left with the plant, and that's going to grow back 99% of the time. That's why they call them weeds. Back here we got some wild lettuce growing up. See, this is what all the modern lettuce is domesticated from. Get rid of that right now. Another feature that's interesting is that I like to keep some of the plants that are considered invasive and even toxic. Down here we have a bunch of poison ivy, and this poison ivy is actually even growing in my medicine bed over there. For one, I'm extremely allergic to poison ivy. I've got it all over my arms and my belly right now. But I do know from experience of probably, I'd say it's about 10 years now of farming, that you cannot eradicate it so without using toxic chemicals. So for now, I'll tolerate it. I'm not going to leave it unchecked or anything, but I'm tolerating it.